Yo, what's poppin' guys, and today in this video I'm going to be teaching you the best way to create your Scratch projects and the easiest way to customize your Scratch editor layout. So what we're going to be using is TurboWarp's offline editor. To access this, you're going to come to your search bar and you're going to type in TurboWarp offline editor. If I could spell, we'd be there faster, but I can't, so we're just gonna deal with it. And then you're gonna click on this. You're gonna click on this link that says TurboWarp Desktop, http://desktop.turbowarp.org. Go ahead, click on that link, and then you're gonna come up to this page right here, and you're gonna download whatever you're using. If you're using Windows like I am, you're gonna download the 64-bit one. It's just not many systems will be using the 32-bit one, so you're pretty safe in clicking this 64-bit. If you're using Mac, you're gonna download the Universal Mac one. Linux, I don't know how Linux works. I haven't looked into it too much. And then that has its own web app where you can download an actual web app that will show up over here in your extensions. But I'm Windows, so I'm just gonna go ahead and click this download button, and then you'll go through the normal download settings. I already have TurboWarp installed. So when you open it for the first time, you should be seeing this. If I hide this, boom, this is what you should be seeing. This is your TurboWarp thing. I'm going to move my camera over here so that I'm not in the way. Okay, now what you'll see is this is what you'll see when you come up. You'll see you immediately have a dark mode, right? Which is super nice in and of itself. And maybe this is all you want for your customization, but I'm going to show you some further customization options. You'll see that when you start a new project, you don't have the Scratch kit. You instead have this thing. But now it's time to get into the things to make your Scratch look like what mine does on my streams and in some of my tutorials. So let's take a look at how you can do that. All you're going to do is you're going to come up and click on this add-ons tab up in the corner. Now this is just like Scratch add-ons. It's slightly limited to what Scratch add-ons has, but it gets the job done. So I'm just gonna show my whole screen, otherwise you can't see this little pop-up that comes up. So this little pop-up right here will come up, and all you're going to do is you can read through these and do what you want. If you want to do what I have, what I do is I turn on cat blocks, which what cat blocks does is it changes your event blocks to cats, and then you'll see if you zoom in, you can kind of pet their ears. They have fun getting their ears pet. They like it. It's fun. Okay. Anyways, let's get into some more of the options. Right? Okay. Now what we're going to look at Devtools, which should be on by default, which is add-on by GriffPatch. It's fantastic. No reason not to use it. Searchable drop-downs. No reason not to turn this on. Data category tweaks. I'm going to turn that on. What that does is that separates your lists and your variables. So you have a new tab for lists. Excuse me. See, normally Scratch just has variables and lists is in there, but if you separate them, it gives you a new one, which is much nicer. Something in here that I also recommend clicking is the separate sprite only variables. What that does is if you ever have multiple variables, right? Say you have a variable called hello, which is a universal variable, and then say you have a hi, which is for the sprite only variable. This separates them into two different categories when normal Scratch doesn't do that. That's what normal Scratch does, and you can't tell the difference unless you're actually looking at the names of them. But with this turned on, it separates them, makes it a whole lot nicer. Right? By ticking this, you will see that the blocks move above the circles. This is purely if you want this. Totally up to you. I like to turn it off. I prefer them to be down below. But when you have a project with a lot of variables, it might be nicer to have this up on top. Okay. Now you have block palette category icons. That refers to these circles right here. When you turn them on, it adds little icons to it. I personally have it on. Not necessary. I just like it. Auto hiding block palette. This works well if you're using something like a school computer, like a school Chromebook, or a laptop where your work screen is a little bit smaller. And you turn on the block palette, you'll see that it hides. And when you put your mouse over to the side, it'll open back up. And then you can grab blocks, and then it gives you just a little bit more room to work. And if you ever have this on and you want to keep it open, all you do is do this, and you click on this little lock, and that keeps it open. I have this on. I usually have this block locked all the time anyways, but just in case, it's nice to have it. Right. and you can mess with some settings inside of there. Project video recorder, I turn that on. It lets you record your project, and it'll just record your project window. Nice to have if you're doing some recordings and stuff. I've never used it, but the option to use it is nice for people who don't want to download OBS or something like that. The debugger window is an extra window inside of TurboWarp. If I reload this, and I'm just gonna reload. It's gonna reload it. Then you'll see that we have a debugger menu. But let's continue looking at what we have, right? So what this can do is adds the debugger window into the editor, as you would presume. That's this little button up here, right? This is all debug stuff, right? So you can see up here that it says the debugger works best when the compiler is disabled. The compiler is referring to this setting up in the advanced tab. You open the advanced tab and you'll see that the compiler is on by default, and by ticking this, it turns the compiler off. Something the compiler does is, say you're running a script, right? Like say you create a script that, for example, when your key space is pressed, right? When your key space is pressed, your thing moves across the screen, right? If you are to say duplicate this and add, well here, let's put it like this. Let's put it like this. You have a green flag and you have a forever loop in here that says forever if your key space is pressed, right? Something like this, right? You start your game, whenever you press space, it moves your little thing across the screen, right? But say that you want to have, whenever you press the left arrow, it'll move the other direction, right? Now you'll see that, we'll start the game with just this, right? We'll start the game with just this, and we can move it across the screen. If we drag this in and we press the left arrow, it doesn't do anything. That's the compiler. The compiler won't do anything until you restart the project, and then you can do it again. I personally like turning this thing off when you start. It doesn't save, so every single time you open up your TurboWarp project, you're going to want to make sure you tick this off if you don't want it on. And then that will allow you, you'll see now, if we stop and then we add a change mid-project, you can then actually use it. That's what that does. So turbo off that compiler and you can use your debugger menu. Okay, back in here. Okay, you can choose what it logs. It can log your green flag clicks, the amount of times the green flag is clicked, log the amount of times clones is created, all that fun kind of stuff. Then you have a clone counter. No reason not to have this on. It just displays how many clones are on your screen. Really good for testing stuff if you think clones are creating clones. Super helpful. Mouse position adds this little X and Y variable for where your mouse is on the screen. Really good for finding quick areas if you want to teleport something somewhere. Sprite deletion confirmation. I highly recommend this. All this does is that when you go to delete a sprite, it'll bring a little pop-up on screen asking if you really want to do it. In case you accidentally click it, you want to accidentally delete a sprite. Block count, just fun. Shows the little amount of blocks that you're using in a project. You can set up a bunch of stuff like this. This is onion skinning. What onion skinning is it's something in your costumes menu. It'll open up these little things. They should be on by default, but basically what you do is when you make a new, it's really good for animation. When you make a new costume, you can turn on onion skinning and you can see, you can choose to have multiple previous costumes showing, right? And multiple next costumes showing, right? What it does is it just gives you this little effect, and you can open the menu by clicking this and turn off and on onion skinning by pressing this. This is the settings for onion skinning on and off. And then you could, for example, do good animations, or then let's say you copied this, you can then move it slightly again, and then you can get some more fluid animations slightly easier. And then again, if you're on this menu and you want to see even the first one, all you do is increase that, and then you can see the other one as much as you want, really, right? See them all. And then if you wanted to see the next costume, you turn on next costume and it'll show you where the next costume is going to be after this. Something really nice. I definitely recommend turning it on for any circumstance, really. It's always super helpful to have. So let's keep looking through the menus. You can mess around with these things as you want to. Customizable default costume editor colors. So you come into here, and this refers to when you open up a new sprite for the first time to paint it. This color is this gray. Well, actually, I think it's purple. I'm color deficient. And then this is a black. you can, with this menu, define, I like to set them both to black, and then I like to set my outline color to 10, because these are usually settings that I set them to. And then you'll see that when we do that, when we open up a new sprite, hold up. Yep. This one might require a reload. I think this one does. I think this one does require a reload. It would open up your project to have this be black, and this be 10. So, yep, and you just set that to whatever you wanted. Fantastic. So, bitmap images copying on by default. Keep it on. It's nice to have. 2D color picker. All that does is it gives you this looking thing. A little bit easier to select your colors. It opens up this big menu instead of what Scratch usually does, which is all right, now it's just on. Now it's just on. All right. Might require a reload to reset itself. Anyways, let's see if we can. Yeah, I think it just requires a reload to reset itself. All right, whatever. Continuing. I don't like it on. If you like it on, go ahead, turn it on. HD images uploading. I don't use this, but if you want to read what it does, adds a new button above the upload costume that automatically converts uploaded bitmap images into scalar vector graphics to avoid losing quality. It's in beta, so it might not always work. So there you go. Customizable block shape. I like to turn this on, and I like to click 3.0 flat. And what that does is that gives you this effect where all of your blocks are perfect squares now. I use this in combination with something else. Some people like to have the little puzzle piece things on the top and the bottom. It doesn't bother me either way. I personally like them like that. Then you have the customizable block colors, where you can customize what each individual color block looks like. For example, like this is the looks tab. I can change the looks tab color to any color I want. Say I want them as a bright green. Boom, now they're a bright green. I like them as what they were. But what I do is I do colored on black background, which gives this look that you guys can see on my streams. This is what I use, right? I use this looking. I merge those two together to get these cool looking, almost neon sort of blocks. I think they look very nice. Anyways, then you have customizable block text style. You can choose to make the text bold or show shadow under your text of your blocks. I just keep bold text on. Then you have colored context menu. That one requires a reload as well. So let's reload it so we can actually get the look at it. And then boom, it just makes the letters a bold. And let's see if that changed this. Yeah, it did change this back. All right, cool. All right, awesome. Oh, and then you'll see, look at that. When we made the new sprite, it's black, black, and 10, just how we had it set. We just needed that reload. Okay, continuing. Next, you have colored context menus, which makes block to the right click, menus colorful, right? This right here makes this outline blue. Or variable. I'll copy it. Makes it look kind of nice. Nice to have. I like to have it on. Next, you have display stage on left side, which will switch the stage over to here. It'll make it look like Scratch 2.0. You click that, boom, you're back to a 2.0 semi-looking look. If you want to have it look 100% like 2.0, what you can do is you can, let's see if we can just find this one right off the bat. Where is it? Yeah, right here. 2-column category menu. Turn that on, and then you boom right here. This is the original Scratch 2.0 look. I shouldn't say original, since the original is Scratch 1, but yeah, this is how it used to look in Scratch 2.0. This is what it looked like when I started, minus what these blocks look like in the background color, but this is what it looked like. I personally have now gotten used to Scratch 3.0 coding, so I personally like to turn these off. Where were we? Yeah, right there. Variable manager. What this does is when you click this, it'll add a new tab up here for your variables. It gives you a bunch of information about all your variables. It's super nice to have. It's super convenient when you're doing bigger scale projects. Next, you have search sprites by name. When you tick that, you'll get a search bar up here. And if you have a lot of sprites, you'll be able to search your sprite. For example, if I make a sprite and we call it hello, and we search for hello, you'll see it'll pop up hello and get rid of everything else. And if you type in sprite, it'll get rid of everything except the sprite. Nice for searching when you have a lot of sprites. Then you have game support. When you click that on, you'll get this game support tab where you can plug in a controller and set up controls on that. Nice to have if you're doing something like that. I turned it on just to have it. I don't plan on ever making a project that does that, but if I ever do, I have that on for that purpose. Editor sound effects. Play sound effects when you connect or delete blocks. I personally don't super like it, you know. I don't even know if I have it on. Yeah, plays a little pop sound. I don't know if you can hear that. I'll turn this up a bit for you. Yeah. Something to have. I don't like it. When I'm coding, I usually like to have my silence or listen to what I'm listening to. But if you want it, go ahead and put it on. Sprites folder. It's on by default. What that does is you can right click over here on a sprite and you can click create folder, and you can then name whatever you want, right? Sprites, and then boom, makes folder. You can put multiple things in the folder, add to folder sprites, and then it compiles it. When you click on it, it opens it up and shows you what's inside. You can close it and open it. Really good for managing all of your sprites when you have a big project. Block switching, it's a fantastic one. Really what it does is, say you have a set X and you want it to be a set Y, but you don't want to drag it out and drag in a set Y. What you can do is you can right click it, and then all the options you can change it to are right here. Makes it a whole lot faster for doing things. It's super nice. That also means you have an operator, but you want it to be an equal sign. You can set it to an equal sign. You can easily set them, and it's super nice. I use that all the time in my tutorials, so it's nice to be able to set these really, really fast. And in ORs, you can switch them around, all that kind of stuff. Now, we're looking at automatically add extensions. When you take that on, every single time you load up a project, it will you will be allowed to automatically add music, pen, text, and translate. I don't think it really matters since I don't always use those, but if you want to add those by yourself, all you do is come down to this little menu down in the corner and then add whatever you'd like, which, you know, music, pen, video sensing, text-to-speech, all these things that you can add. Next, we'll look at customizable code area zoom. Turn this on and you can choose how big the maximum zoom is. The maximum zoom that Scratch usually does is 300, but here you can set it to 500, and you can set the smallest to 1. It gives you the measurements of how big you can make them. Zoom speed, I like it the way it is, and the start zoom, I like it the way it is as well. And you can auto hide the zoom controls, which, you know, automatically hides these things. I would not recommend turning that on. But now you can see that you can zoom out a whole bunch, and you can zoom in a whole bunch. You can zoom in a big amount to the point where a single AND block takes up pretty much the entire screen. And then you can zoom out a whole bunch to the point where you can barely even see, if not at all, see that AND block anymore. It's more of just a fun thing if you have a whole bunch of code just to kind of show how much code you have. I think it's fun. I have it on. Next, you have customizable new sprite position. I recommend turning this on and setting it to 0, 0. That means whenever you create a new sprite, it'll instantly go to the center of your screen, to the center of your canvas. It's super nice to have. Next, you have save blocks as images, which is when you right-click the code area, it, you know, exports your blocks as a SVG or PNG. I don't have it on, but you can definitely turn it on if you'd like to. Remove curved stage border. I'd turn this on. What this does is, if you look at the border here, you'll see that this is a curved square. By turning this on, it turns it into an actual square, so you can better you know, move things the way they should be. If you want something directly in the corner, it's a lot harder to do that when your border is curved, because there is still something going on here. You just can't see it, so I'd recommend turning it on. Block transparency, I have this on. All this does is, say you're making something, right? You're making something and it looks like this, right? When something's outside of it, it'll turn transparent, so you can put things over top and you'll be able to see through your work. See how you can still read the broadcast through it. It's nice to have when your code gets crowded and is sitting on top of itself, and you can set how transparent it is here. Paint costume by default, I turn this on and I set this to record. It means that when you click this button, you won't even have to click paint. You'll just click it and it'll automatically open up your paint menu, because what it usually does is when you hit this, it automatically open up the choose a sprite, which is just annoying. It's just a little bit faster while you're working on stuff. And then when you add sound, it'll automatically open the record instead of opening a library for you to choose from. Grab single block with control key, should be on by default. And what this does is, say you have some scripts going on, right? You got some scripts going, and say you want to remove just this broadcast and what, you can hold down the control key and you can just drag that block out. With a normal scratch, you couldn't do that. You have to do this. Or say you had like a lot more code, right? And you wanted just this. You'd originally have to take it out like that, but now you can just press control and take that out. Or press control, take this out, press control, take this off, press control, take all this stuff. It's super convenient, super convenient. Then you have hide new variables. When you turn this on, every single time you create a variable, or a list for that matter, right? So you create a variable and you hit OK, it won't show up on your editor, which is super nice, because if you have that off and you make something, it shows up on the screen, and then you have to manually get rid of it. I like to have it on. It's super nice. Extra key support. I recommend turning this on. It lets you use experimental keys. It lets you use your shift keys as actual keys that can be sensed, and it lets you use turbo warp keys. Turbo warp keys and experimental keys, you can do your research into, right? Basically, it just lets you use, for example, it lets you use extra stuff. Like, for example, it shows the enter key in here just like this, so that when you hold down your enter key and then click, you know. But then you can also go to operators and grab your join. Set this last one to a nothing, and you can set this to, say, shift. Hold down your shift key. Oh, my shift key doesn't work and click at the same time. Okay, that's a bit awkward, but I promise you it does work. My computer is just set up to not let clicking happen while I'm holding shift. Anyways, hide the delete button. I recommend doing this. You see here how this delete button is visible. When you click that, it just gets rid of it. And then you have to right click to actually be able to delete. And then it also brings up the do you want to delete this sprite menu. So 2 extra protections for accidentally deleting your costumes. Do not automatically space overlapping scripts. I love to have this on. So basically what this does is, say you have, again, big script, going big scripty boy, all this fun stuff, right? You have a bunch of scripts going, right? And here, let me turn it off. Yeah. So you duplicate it and you place your script down. See how it moves? It keeps moving the script, which can be really annoying, right? So you move the script here and then move it for you. When this is on, it lets you place it there. It's nice to have. I like it personally. Next, you have non-draggable sprites in editor. When you turn this on, you just won't be able to move these sprites. I don't know why that's there. I like having it on. I mean, I guess if you don't want to move by accident, but I like being able to move it so I can move it to an area and then know its location. I personally like it to have it off, but if you want it on, turn it on. Move costume top or bottom. All this does is give you the option, so you have a bunch of costumes, right? And this one has something special on it, like a dot. You can right click it and you can hit move to top, automatically moves to the top, hit move to bottom, automatically moves to the bottom. Super nice. You should definitely turn it on. Do not shift pasted items, right? Do not shift pasted items. Basically what this means is, you know, when you copy something in the costume editor, so let's turn it off and see what it does. Turn it off, right? Say you want to do this, so you grab this, Control C, Control V. You see how it moves it a little bit? Like, see how, here's the original, and it moves it like that, right? Maybe you don't want that, so you turn this on. Oh my goodness, could you turn it on, please? You turn it on, paste it, and it's right on top of the other one. I personally like having this on. If you don't like it, don't turn it on. Duplicate script with the Alt key. This works super similar to the Control movement key. So again, let's say you have a big boy script, and you want to duplicate this if statement. You can hold down the Alt key and drag, and it automatically duplicates that out. So you could, you know, grab all this stuff. Oh, but I don't want that one in there. I hold Control. I take it back out. Super nice. Okay, you have switch variables between for all sprites and for this sprite only. GriffPatch has a whole tutorial talking about this add-on specifically. It's really nice to have it on. So say you have a variable, right? So you have a for all sprites variable. So you have another variable that's for this sprite only, and you don't want it like that. You can go ahead and right click it, and then you can do convert for all sprites, or not convert for all sprites. Oh my goodness. Convert, yes, convert to for all sprites. It then adds it back to the for all sprites menu, and then you could take another one and do for this sprite only and set them to this sprite only. Oh, but I don't want my variable as that, so I'll set it back to for all sprites. Super nice to have. Editor comment previews, keep it on. I'm not 100% sure what this does. I mean, I guess it allows you to preview the contents of comments by hovering over a collapsed drop menu. I'm guessing what this does is when you add a comment and it says hello, and you close it, it just says what it is. And then it'll actually show it. Okay, that's what it is. So if you have like a whole bunch of stuff, if you have a whole bunch of stuff and it closes, can't read it all, so you do that, and then it opens it and shows more. That's what that does. Okay, well there you go. I learned something new today too. You can do reduce transparency, reduce animation, delay duration, short, long, find a bunch of stuff like that. So, 2-column category menu. We already went over that. It just splits your cost. It just slips your stuff up into that. I don't like it, so I turn it off. Snap to grid. It scripts automatically snap to an area of code. Right? You can see that. You see these little white dots. Yeah, it just makes sure that they stay in those confines. Some people really like this. I personally don't like using it because I couldn't place this block right here. It'd have to snap it. But if you like it, go ahead and turn that on. I can see why you'd like it. I just personally do not. Next, you have enhanced full screen. This as it says, fixes some undesired effects in the project player's full screen mode, opens it to your browser's full screen mode, and hides the green flag toolbar. So you'll see, I don't like this because you usually have to click the full screen button twice. You click it once, and then it gets rid of this top menu and your bottom menu, as you saw. And you click it again, and then it goes full screen. Then you unhinge, and you can see that you can see this Turbo Warp desktop and all my icons at the bottom. You right click it once, it gets rid of those. Right click, or not right click, left click, and then you left click again, and then it actually opens. For that reason, it annoys me, so I turn it off. Keep block comment connections straight. Forces block comment connections to always be connected to the source for a horizontal straight line, not at an angle. So all that does is, you see when you make a normal comment off of a block, right, it adds this little line, right, to tell you what it's connected to. It'll keep it horizontal and not let you do something like this. So if you turn it on, I'm sure I actually have to do it. This might be a reload one, so I'm just going to reload it just in case. Okay, cool. So we have our block. We add a comment. Hello. Am I having a stroke? Yeah. That's the basic. It won't let you do a diagonal. I'm not 100% sure why you'd want this, but if you want it, more power to you. Go ahead and do that. I personally don't like it though. And then this dangerous setting, I would never touch these. Do not touch these, right? Hiding the backpack hides your backpack. Moving the feedback button removes the TurboWork feedback button. Don't do it. Disable compiler and editor will turn it off, I think forever. Don't do it. Don't turn any of these three that say dangerous on. And running block order adds a colored highlight to the blocks that are currently being exceeded. I, again, would not touch it. I'd keep this dangerous tab closed and never touch them. If you want to play around with them, more power to you. I would not recommend it. So this is how I have my settings set up. Feel free to copy me, or feel free to do whatever you'd like. But this is what I like to do. So I'm going to leave the episode here. Yes, this is an offline editor. There is a TurboWarp online editor, which you can find, which can also do all these things all the same. And some other fun things that TurboWarp does, if you're interested, is TurboWarp, for example, if you go to variables and you make a cloud variable, right? Make a cloud variable called 1. For those of you that don't know, the cloud variable limit in Scratch is 10. But you'll see with TurboWarp, you can, I'm fairly certain in one of the newer updates, you can do, I think it's an infinite limit of cloud variables. I don't think there's a limit. Now you might be wondering, Deku, if it lets you do infinite, but Scratch doesn't, does it run any slower? And the answer to that is yes, right? You'll see a menu pops up when you do more than 10, right? Although you can create cloud variables, they won't work unless this project is uploaded to Scratch or converted to a tool like TurboWarp Packager. TurboWarp Packager is something you can use to create your projects in an HTML file or an exe file, so you can download them and play them in their own window. Now what this does is it puts TurboWarp into its own server. So cloud variables on Scratch are ran on Scratch's server, and when you use them like this, you can use them on, it puts them into a TurboWarp server, which runs slightly slower than Scratch's server, as far as I'm aware, as far as I've been told by some people that I've talked to. But you shouldn't notice it too much. But now you see here, when you do more than 10, it says, if you make this cloud variable, the project will exceed Scratch's limits of 10 variables, and some variables will not function if you upload this project on Scratch. So say you are using, so 10 is the limit, right? Borderline. 10 is the limit of how much you can have on Scratch. With this 11th one, if you're using this 11th one, right? Say you set 11 to 99, right? There is no guarantee that when you port this onto actual Scratch, that the 11 cloud variable will work, because Scratch doesn't allow more than 10. It will work on Turbo Warp servers, but most likely not Scratch's. So if you're using more than 10 cloud variables, just know you should probably only be using this project that you're using on Turbo Warp. But there you go. That's all I have for this video. That's a fun little setup. Half an hour, big look at Turbo Warp and its editors. I hope you found it enjoyable, and I hope you found it a little bit educational for you. Maybe you did something new. Maybe you made your Scratch layout look much cooler and you like the way it looks more. But I'm going to leave the episode here. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, don't like it. If you didn't like it anyways, because, yes, that is Genshin Impact in my taskbar. I don't often play it, but my friend told me to, so I do whenever he does. While you're at it, I want to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy my content. That'll help me out a lot. But thank you also for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.